In a world already defined by uncertainty and shifting alliances, one decision could once again reshape the global balance of power. Donald Trump's return to the White House has reignited deep questions about America's foreign policy. Its influence in Eastern Europe, its relationship with global partners, and the limits of deterrence in an increasingly complex international landscape. Now, a critical debate is unfolding in Washington. Should the United States consider providing Ukraine with advanced long-range systems, technology that could significantly alter the strategic dynamics on the ground and the broader geopolitical equation? It's a choice that blends diplomacy, defense strategy, and international law, one that could set the tone for how future conflicts are prevented or contained. Because in this new era of uncertainty, every decision carries not just regional implications, but global consequences. And this particular decision could put the safety of the United States at stake. To fully understand this tense moment, we need to look back. Since early 2022, the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine has transformed into one of the most complex and prolonged geopolitical crises of the 21st century, defined by shifting front lines, economic sanctions, and intense diplomatic negotiations. Throughout this period, the United States, across multiple administrations, has been one of Ukraine's primary supporters, providing humanitarian assistance, economic aid, and advanced defensive technology. These include precision-guided systems such as HIMARS, Patriot air defenses, and modern battle tanks like the Abrams, all intended to strengthen Ukraine's ability to protect its sovereignty and maintain stability. However, Washington has consistently drawn one clear boundary. It has avoided supplying long-range capabilities that could reach beyond Ukraine's borders. This measured restraint was intentional, a calculated effort to prevent any misunderstanding or escalation that could be interpreted as direct U.S. involvement in the conflict. Now, under President Trump's renewed leadership, that fragile equilibrium is once again under review. The question facing U.S. policymakers is not only about military assistance. It's about defining the limits of deterrence, diplomacy, and national interest in an era where every decision echoes far beyond the battlefield. In recent months, Ukraine's government has formally requested additional capabilities, including Tomahawk cruise systems, which are advanced precision-guided platforms capable of reaching targets over 1,000 kilometers away. For Kyiv, these systems would allow for unprecedented operational reach, enabling the country to influence critical supply lines, command centers, and other strategic locations well behind the front lines. For Washington, however, the decision carries broader implications. It represents a pivotal strategic crossroads. Even if used indirectly, the deployment of such long-range systems could be perceived by Moscow as a direct intervention by the United States, elevating tensions at the highest levels of diplomacy. Russian officials have already signaled that this step would cross what they describe as a red line, underscoring the sensitivity of the situation. Analysts caution that the move could trigger a rapid cycle of escalation, not necessarily through direct military engagement, but through intensified cyber operations, defensive posturing, or strategic countermeasures across allied regions. President Trump, for his part, frames the potential deployment as a form of leverage, a calculated demonstration of strength that could encourage Moscow to return to negotiations under terms favorable to U.S. and allied interests. Within his administration, opinions remain divided. Some advisors view the step as a credible measure of deterrence, reinforcing Ukraine's position without provoking unnecessary risk. Others caution that the optics and perceived intent could be interpreted as a provocation, potentially complicating diplomatic efforts and stability in the region. Across Europe, international partners are observing developments with heightened attention, fully aware that each decision in this evolving situation carries implications far beyond the immediate region. Every policy choice, public statement, or operational adjustment sends a signal that can ripple across borders and influence the broader geopolitical environment. Germany and France continue to emphasize restraint, consistently cautioning that any misstep could undermine ongoing diplomatic initiatives and the fragile progress towards stability in Eastern Europe. Their approach is grounded in careful planning, dialogue, and cooperation through established multinational institutions. The goal is to reduce the risk of misunderstandings, maintain clear channels of communication, and support de-escalation wherever possible. The United Kingdom and Poland, while aligned with the principles of diplomacy, have expressed cautious support for stronger measures. They argue that a firm stance, supported by credible capabilities and demonstrable readiness, is necessary to maintain long-term stability, deter actions that could destabilize the region further, and reassure allied nations that collective commitments are meaningful and reliable. At the same time, Russia has begun repositioning certain military assets closer to its western borders. Intelligence analysts interpret these movements as forms of strategic signaling, rather than preparations for immediate operations. Yet the pace and visibility of these adjustments underscore a critical point. In a climate of heightened tension and mutual scrutiny, even carefully intended signals can be misread or misinterpreted, increasing uncertainty and the need for careful diplomacy. In today's interconnected and interdependent world, decisions are rarely isolated. Measures that may appear operational or technical can carry profound geopolitical significance, influencing international alliances, shaping diplomatic negotiations, and altering the perception of stability on a global scale. Leaders and policymakers must navigate a delicate balance, understanding that every choice has ripple effects that extend far beyond the immediate moment and into the broader arena of international relations. At home, the debate over strategy and policy is both intense and nuanced, reflecting the intricate challenge of balancing national interests, diplomatic priorities, and regional stability. In a world where global attention is constant and decisions ripple far beyond their origin, every policy choice is scrutinized by allies, adversaries, the public, and international institutions alike. Supporters of a more assertive approach argue that demonstrating clear and decisive capability could encourage Russia to engage in meaningful negotiations. They contend that a credible show of strategic strength not only reinforces U.S. influence, but also signals to partners and adversaries alike that commitments are serious, tangible, and reliable. By creating conditions for constructive dialogue, proponents believe such a stance can accelerate the resolution of ongoing tensions while strengthening the broader security framework in the region. Critics, however, urge caution. They emphasize that overconfidence or misjudgment, even if unintended, could complicate diplomatic channels or heighten uncertainty among allies and adversaries. In this context, every decision carries both practical and symbolic weight. Small actions can be interpreted in ways that were never intended, shaping perceptions as much as they shape reality. Misinterpretation could slow negotiations, increase uncertainty, or invite countermeasures that complicate efforts to stabilize the region. President Trump, for his part, has repeatedly highlighted his intention to resolve the situation quickly. Yet the meaning of speed may differ from conventional diplomatic or strategic expectations. He frames the demonstration of capability as a tool of negotiation, a calculated form of leverage designed to influence behavior, encourage concessions, and guide the trajectory of discussions toward a favorable resolution. For Trump, the ability to project credible power is inseparable from the pursuit of diplomatic outcomes. The effectiveness of this approach hinges on precision, planning, and careful assessment. Successful execution requires disciplined analysis, clear communication, and anticipation of how various stakeholders will perceive and react to U.S. actions. Even well-intentioned measures can produce unintended effects if signals are misread, potentially triggering a series of diplomatic or strategic responses that extend far beyond the initial decision. In this high-stakes environment, leadership demands more than decisiveness. It requires measured judgment, strategic foresight, and an acute awareness that every choice reverberates across a complex web of international relationships. Navigating this landscape calls for both the boldness to act and the restraint to understand the far-reaching consequences of each step. A delicate balance where strategy, diplomacy, and global perception converge. Experts continue to emphasize that contemporary international tensions extend well beyond traditional battlefields. In today's interconnected and highly interdependent world, disputes unfold simultaneously across multiple domains, from cyber operations and disinformation campaigns to regional proxy activities, economic measures, and strategic signaling. Each of these actions carries the potential to shape perceptions, influence decision-making, and set off sequences of reactions that can be difficult to anticipate or control. Even seemingly small or localized measures can trigger complex chains of responses. A single decision may be interpreted in ways that the initiating party never intended, potentially amplifying tensions and complicating diplomatic efforts. In this context, the potential transfer of advanced systems, like Tomahawk cruise missiles, is not simply a matter of technology or operational capability. It serves as a significant test of strategic planning, careful communication, and the ability of leaders to exercise restraint under pressure. Decision-makers must weigh not only the immediate tactical implications, but also the long-term effects on how these actions are perceived by allies, neutral parties, and other stakeholders across the global stage. In a world where nuclear capabilities exist, the principle of deterrence relies on credibility combined with clearly defined boundaries. Demonstrating strength without exceeding those boundaries is essential to maintaining international stability and trust. Crossing these limits, even unintentionally, could shift the balance of influence, alter alliances, and reshape the perception of security in ways that reverberate for decades. Ultimately, the contemporary challenge lies in managing risk across multiple arenas at the same time. Modern strategy requires more than just the deployment of resources. It demands the careful orchestration of signals, messaging, and international coordination. Every action communicates intent, and in a high-stakes environment where perceptions matter as much as capabilities, misreading or misinterpreting these signals can produce far-reaching consequences. The stakes are global, the variables are interconnected, and the margin for error is narrow. Leaders today must navigate an intricate web of diplomacy, strategy, and perception, recognizing that each decision not only affects the immediate situation, but also contributes to the broader narrative of international stability and security. Recent reports indicate that President Trump has yet to finalize a decision regarding the provision of advanced systems to Ukraine. Behind the scenes, a series of high-level meetings continues in secure settings, where intelligence agencies, military advisors, and strategic experts are analyzing a wide spectrum of possible scenarios. Every option is being evaluated with careful attention to its potential consequences for diplomacy, regional stability, and the broader framework of international relations. Across the globe, governments, analysts, and citizens alike are watching closely. The next move carries the potential to influence the trajectory of the situation and shape global perceptions of stability and security. Observers consider whether upcoming decisions will foster constructive engagement, strengthen negotiation pathways, and encourage cooperative solutions, or whether misjudged actions could unintentionally heighten uncertainty and complicate ongoing efforts to maintain calm and balance. In this environment, the line between measured deterrence and perceived escalation is not dictated solely by policy papers or technical assessments. It is often shaped by an interpretation, perception, and the judgments made in real time by leaders. How a decision-maker evaluates risk, projects authority, and communicates intent can reverberate far beyond the immediate context, influencing alliances, shaping diplomatic negotiations, and affecting the overall landscape of global relations. At moments like this, strategic foresight, disciplined analysis, and careful diplomacy are as critical as decisive action. The global community observes not only the decisions themselves, but also the manner of their implementation, the signals they convey, and the way these signals are received by allies, partners, and stakeholders worldwide. Each choice is a message, and in today's interconnected world, the interpretation of that message can carry ramifications that extend across continents and decades. In a world where power, strategy, and perception intersect, every decision carries consequences that extend far beyond national borders. Even choices made behind closed doors, in offices, conference rooms, and secure briefings, can ripple across continents, influencing alliances, shaping negotiations, and redefining the broader landscape of international stability. Every action, every signal, and every public or private statement can have effects that reach far beyond what is immediately visible, affecting how nations perceive one another, how treaties are interpreted, and how future agreements are negotiated. President Trump's next steps are being observed with intense scrutiny, not only by policymakers in Washington, but also by leaders, analysts, journalists, and citizens around the world. Global attention is focused on the decisions being made at the highest levels of government, because these choices have the potential to define far more than a single presidency. They can influence the trajectory of international security, recalibrate the balance of power among nations, and shape the path toward long-term stability in regions marked by tension, uncertainty, and strategic maneuvering. In such a complex environment, even minor actions can carry outsized symbolic weight. Signals sent through diplomatic channels, military planning, or public statements are interpreted, analyzed, and often amplified, with repercussions that can influence global perception, trust among allies, and the willingness of partners to engage in cooperative solutions. In this interconnected era, leadership is measured not only by the decisions that are made, but also by the foresight, communication, and judgment used to navigate a rapidly evolving international landscape. We want to hear your perspective. Should the United States continue to provide Ukraine with advanced long-range systems, enhancing strategic capabilities? Or should the focus shift toward renewed diplomacy, dialogue, and cooperative solutions that prioritize negotiation and stability? Your thoughts matter because understanding multiple perspectives is part of navigating a complex world. If you found this analysis informative and thought-provoking, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and joining our growing community for more in-depth breakdowns of global events, international strategy, and geopolitical developments. By joining, You directly help us to provide you deep analysis that examines not just the headlines, but the context, the strategy, and the long-term implications of today's decisions. Because understanding the choices being made today, their complexity, their stakes, and their potential consequences is the first step toward shaping a more informed and peaceful tomorrow. In an interconnected world, knowledge, awareness, and critical thinking are powerful tools for anyone seeking to understand how decisions made in one capital, one meeting, or one press briefing can resonate across the globe, affecting millions of lives and the course of history itself.